Hello everyone, I'm Hsueh from the China Medical University Hospital, China Medical University in Taiwan and Taiwan. And first of all, I would like to thank the organizing committee for inviting me to deliver this lecture. My topic today is treatment of XDR and PDR gram-negative bacteria. The outline of my talk today is first, I will touch on the epidemiology, particularly the enterobacterial cells, and the Pseudomonas aeruginosa, and the Acinetobacter baumannii. And we'll define the carbapenem-resistant XDR, PDR, and also the clinical impact, and also the molecular mechanism. And finally, I will touch on the treatment of the XDR and the PDR. As we know, the gram-negative bacteria associated with clinical colonization, infection, and even the secondary bacteremia can cause the primary infection, skin and esophageal infection, genital urinary tract infection, and also the gastrointestinal tract infection. So the enterobacterial, particularly the E. coli and Klebsiella pneumonia, is the most common, and non-fermentative gram-negative bacteria, for example, Pseudomonas aeruginosa and Acinetobacter baumannii, is the major etiology associated with healthcare associated infection. In 2018, the WHO indicated 25 the most important antimicrobial resistant bacteria. But among the 25, the top 5 resistant bacteria were Acinetobacter baumannii, carbapenem-resistant, carbapenem-resistant Pseudomonas aeruginosa, and the third generation cephalosporin-resistant E. coli and Klebsiella species. So the most important pathogen in the clinical setting should be the gram-negative bacteria, including the Klebsiella pneumonia and the Pseudo and Acinetobacter baumannii. So how to define the XDR and PDR of PDR? So in generally, in the laboratory, in the hospital, we have a couple of the different categories of the antimicrobial agents. For example, we have the penicillin plus beta-lactamase inhibitor. We have the extended spectrum cephalosporin. We have the anti-Pseudomonas penicillin plus beta-lactamase inhibitor. We have anti-Pseudomonas carbapenem and the anti-Pseudomonas for quinolone, aminoglycoside, sulfur drugs, tetracycline group, and the polymethylene. So in the hospital formulary, we can have the different kinds of the antimicrobial agents among each category. So for define the MDR, SDR, PDR should be based on the formulary in your own hospital. For example, MDR, non-susceptible to more than one agent in more than 3 antimicrobial categories, we define as MDR. And the XDR is extremely drought resistant. It means that the non-susceptible to more than one agent in all 5 less than 2 categories. PDR resistant to all antimicrobial agent lists. But it is the list in the formulary in the hospital. But in some countries, they have the new novel agents, but in some countries not. So the definition of the SDR and the PDR may be different in different regions or different countries or different hospitals. So the first one, we touch on the Pseudomonas aeruginosa. In this section, the last speaker will talk about the Klebsiella pneumonia. So in this talk, I focus on the Pseudomonas aeruginosa and Acinetobacter baumannii. This slide shows you the percentage of NDR Pseudomonas aeruginosa by continent. So you can see here, Asia Pacific region is not the serious region of antimicrobial resistance regarding the NDR Pseudomonas aeruginosa. The most popular, the problem will be in the Latin America, followed by European countries and the Asian Pacific region. Then if we look at the independent resistance in Pseudomonas aeruginosa worldwide, so you can see in some countries, for example, Russia, China, India, and in the Mexico, in some countries like the Chile, they had the problem of the independent resistance Pseudomonas aeruginosa. So you can see here the resistance issue is not the common, but also can you see in some regions we have the more serious problem. If we look at the United States, the multiple drug resistant Pseudomonas aeruginosa in 2017 provided by the US CDC they indicate that in that year, 2017, the 72,000 the estimated case of the hospitalized patient in 2017 is caused by the majority in Pseudomonas aeruginosa. And the estimated case in 2017 is about the 3,000. And you can see the right side, the figure, but actually the number, the real number of cases caused by majority resistant sugar actually is decreasing this year from 2012 to 2017. So this data from the United States. But if we look at the figure from the European country, so you can see here also the country variation of the multiple carbapenem-resistant Pseudomonas aeruginosa. Some countries actually a high incidence of the resistance rate, but in some countries not. So even in the European country, they have some the regional difference. And this slide show you the Acinetobacter baumannii carbapenem-resistant, the global rate. So you can see the world map, and also you can look at the some region or some country has the high incidence of carbapenem-resistant Acinetobacter baumannii. For example, in Asian country, we have India, the high rate, and also in China and Taiwan, and in some countries in the South Asian countries. So you can see even in our Asian Pacific region, they have some country variation. And look at the Acinetobacter baumannii carbapenem-resistant in the United States in 2017. Also caused a lot of the hospitalized patients, the hospitalized the issue, and also caused about 700 estimated deaths in 2017, caused by CRAD. And also you can see the real case number actually decreases in the United States. And also look at the carbapenem-resistant Acinetobacter species in European countries, and you can see a lot of European countries have a high rate of the carbapenem-resistant Acinetobacter baumannii, more than 25%. Also even more than 50% in Italy and Greece, and also in Spain or in some countries. So this is the global, the European, the aspect of the carbapenem-resistant Acinetobacter baumannii. But look at in Taiwan. In Taiwan, we have the couple of the data from Taiwan, and this data is actually the data from SMART. This is the global SMART, and then we get the data from global data, and this the Taiwan data from the global database. So the SMART data 2016 to 2018. 3 main infection sites and focused on the ES producing phenotype and the carbapenem-resistant enterobacterial. So you can see here for E. coli, for E. coli causing the respiratory infection, intraabdominal infection, E. coli causing UTI, and the Klebsiella pneumoniae, RTI, IAI, and the UTI. So you can see here around the 40 to 60% of the Klebsiella pneumonia and the E. coli actually are ES0 producing. And the carbapenem-resistant E. coli or Klebsiella pneumonia is not so high, but for the Klebsiella pneumonia, even particularly in the E. coli, you have the high rate of the carbapenem-resistant the rate. And this is not also for the E. coli, but also for the Enterobacter species. So this is for Enterobacter and the ES4 producing and the carbapenem-resistant. If we look at the Pseudomonas aeruginosa and Acinetobacter baumannii and focusing on MDR and the FDR. So you can see here carbapenem non-susceptible MDR and the FDR. Acinetobacter baumannii in the first 3 columns, and the Pseudomonas aeruginosa in the following 3 columns. So you can see here MDR and FDR for Acinetobacter baumannii more than 50%, FDR and more than 60% MDR. And for Pseudomonas aeruginosa around the 10% for FDR and around the 20% for the MDR, but based on the different types of the isolate from different types of infection. So for the data in Taiwan, we can see the big problem of the MDR and FDR, Pseudomonas Acinetobacter baumannii and the Pseudomonas aeruginosa. This is the data from the global smart. But in Taiwan, we have the so-called our CDC organized the resistance surveillance, but particularly in the ICU, we call the THAS. So this data show you the prevalence of the carbapenem-resistant Klebsiella pneumoniae in ICU, mean the CRKT, from 2011 to 2020. So medical centers and the regional hospitals, you can see here. So the number of the carbapenem-resistant Klebsiella pneumoniae actually increasing with year, and the rate of the carbapenem-resistant Klebsiella pneumoniae in 2020, 41% in medical centers, and 36% in the regional hospitals. So this is data from ICU, not for general, none of the general data in the hospital. And if we look at the carbapenem-resistant Acinetobacter baumannii, so you can see here about latest data from in 2020, 74 in medical centers and 78 in the regional hospital. So in the ICU in the Taiwan, in Taiwan, so we can have a very high incidence of the carbapenem-resistant Acinetobacter baumannii. As for Pseudomonas aeruginosa, it's not a serious problem because for Pseudomonas aeruginosa in 2020, 20% in the medical center and around 19% in the regional hospital. But you can see here actually the number of the patients in ICU got the carbapenem-resistant Pseudomonas aeruginosa. Actually, the number is decreasing. This situation is very similar as the carbapenem-resistant Acinetobacter baumannii. Even though the rate is high, but the number of the patients in ICU patients and got the carbapenem-resistant Acinetobacter, the number is decreasing. So as for the resistance mechanism, particularly the carbapenem-resistant and the XDR or PDR. As for the carbapenem-resistant, the most important mechanism will be the carbapenem mass. And the carbapenem mass is a very important region of causing the carbapenem-resistant. But other mechanisms, including the foreign deficiency, including the efflux pump, etc. So the most important will be the carbapenem mass producer. So this does show you the worldwide identification of carbapenem mass producing the Pseudomonas aeruginosa. So you can see KPCG, VIN, and IMP, and NBN, the so-called metallo-beta-lactamase, and OXA type. So you can see here different region of the different problem. And also you can see here in our Asian Pacific region, we have the KPC problem in India and in China. China, India, and Australia have the GS problem. And the VIN and the IMP and these two, the carbapenem mass is very high incidence in the China, India, and in some of the Asian countries and also in Australia. So you can see the actually different continents, different the region or the country of the different problems of the carbapenem mass, the Pseudomonas aeruginosa, different types of carbapenem mass. And recently we identified the so-called high risk, different types, high risk Pseudomonas aeruginosa clones worldwide. So you can see, particularly in our region, we have the IMP9, and the IMP9 with the ST, the 357, the specific clone in China, and we have VIN2 clones in India, and also in VIN2 and the VIN2 clone in the different country of the Asian Pacific region. So I show you this is an epidemic problem, and also some specific the ST type, the clone associated with high risk Pseudomonas aeruginosa and carbapenem-resistant. Actually, in the hospital, we are very easy. It's very easy to identify the carbapenem mass, the enzyme, and the ES0 enzyme, and even the MCR associated with the colistin plasmid protein reducer. So this is very simple, the immunochromography, the assay. If we have coronary, we have toxic blood culture, we can identify the major resistance mechanism, particularly the ES0 enzyme, the carbapenemase, and also the NCR from the enterobacterial thread and also the Pseudomonas aeruginosa. And not only this POCT, but also we have the multiplex PCR, the pneumonia panel. In the different kinds of the syndromic panel, for example, it's the pneumonia panel, we can detect not only the pathogen, but also the key resistant genes, including the carbapenemase, also 48 and the CTSN. So we can, in the laboratory, we can identify the carbapenemase resistance or the MDR or PDR or SDR based on the different kinds of the resistant gene, and it could be easily detected by the laboratory. Okay, so what's the impact of the drug resistance? So before we're talking about the treatment, in 2017, this study show you the prevalence and outcome of infection of one patient in ICU. This is an efficacy study. Totally 15,000 patients had a suspect of colon infection, and 45 patients got the ICU, the definite ICU infection. So they analyzed the AMR versus non-AMR, the high risk case. So they can clearly identify, for example, the gram-negative bacteria. The carbapenemase resistant Acinetobacter species have the high odds ratio in comparison with non-resistant bacteria. Not only Acinetobacter baumannii, but also the cephalosporin resistant, the Klebsiella pneumoniae, and the carbapenemase resistant Klebsiella pneumoniae. So the resistance causes clinical impact, particularly the mortality. And how about the treatment? The treatment, we have many currently available antimicrobial agents in the hospital. But if we're talking about the XDR, PDR, maybe the majority of the currently available the antimicrobial agents are resistant. So what's the new agent? New agent depends on the availability of the country. For example, in Taiwan, we have the ceftazidime avibactam, but we don't have the fluorine one. But actually, in other countries, they have a lot of the different kinds of so-called novel agents. So the ceftazidime avibactam, ceftazidime, tazobactam, meropenem, valboctam, imipenem, deridoctam, ceftazidime, eravacycline, and the fosfomycin, etc. They have different in vitro or in vivo activity against different the resistant organisms. For example, the carbapenemase resistant enterobacterial, based on different kinds of the carbapenemase, the isolate has. So you have different kinds of the activity of the new novel agent. It's for Pseudomonas aeruginosa, carbapenemase resistant, carbapenemase resistant Acinetobacter baumannii, and Actinotropomonas bacteria. So you can see here, different kinds of novel agents have the different kinds of the activity. For example, ceftazidime, the most potent drug, can in vitro against a lot of the currently the resistant organisms. But for ceftazidime avibactam, they can only activate against the class A and the class B and some Pseudomonas aeruginosa, but it's been active against the class B, for example, NDM, the carbapenemase, and no additional activity against the Acinetobacter baumannii. So you can see here the different kinds of the so-called novel agent could be available, could be the potential, the option for the treatment of the XDR and the PDR. In recent year, in this year in Taiwan, the Infectious Disease Society of Taiwan, we make the recommendation of the treatment option for carbapenemase resistant enterobacterial, including the XDR and the PDR resistant PDR enterobacterial. So we divide the treatment option into the syndrome and the bacteremia and the complicated UTI. So we had some recommended treatment option. For example, in Taiwan we had the ceftazidime avibactam. So we put the ceftazidime avibactam as the recommended treatment of the carbapenemase resistant enterobacterial. Meropenem, valboctam, imipenem, and verodactam, polymyxin-based combination. For example, the colicin and also plus cyclocycline or meropenem. The extended infusion. So we have the recommendation here. Also for the complicated UTI, we have recommendation here. So you can see here some drug is the monotherapy and some is the combination therapy. Based on the, for example, MDR, based on the in vitro susceptibility of the agent we recommended. If all resistant, for example, PDR and the XDR, we should use the combination therapy. This is the bacteremia and the UTI, and also we have the recommendation treatment for the complicated IAI for carbapenem-resistant enterobacteriaceae. So we have the monotherapy, we have the combination therapy based on the polymyxin base or the tigecycline base. And if we use the meta-analysis to evaluate the colistin-based combination or colistin monotherapy, because for the XDR, maybe colistin is the drug with in vitro susceptibility, and also the tigecycline. So for colistin monotherapy and colistin-based combination, we did the meta-analysis, and it's for the 1 month mortality rate in the CRE bloodstream infection. You can see here with the colistin combination therapy is more favorable in comparison with the colistin monotherapy. So for the carbapenem-resistant bacteremia, due to for the bacteremia due to the carbapenem-resistant bacteria, we should use the colistin combination therapy rather than the colistin monotherapy. For the carbapenem-resistant pseudomonas aeruginosa, for MDR, for SDR, we did some recommendation. For MDR, depends on the agent we choose with the in vitro susceptibility. And for XDR, we have quite few the drug available. So always the colistin mono or combination therapy. Or we can use the carbazine tazobactam if the SDR pseudomonas aeruginosa is suitable to carbazine tazobactam. And also we can choose the targeting avibactam or any relevant depends on the in vitro susceptibility to the SDR, the pseudomonas aeruginosa. And also we have the recommendation for Acinetobacter baumannii, carbapenem-resistant, the SDR and the PDR. And for treatment of pneumonia and the treatment of bacteremia. So because the carbapenem-resistant Acinetobacter baumannii is quite similar to the SDR, so the recommended treatment always the colistin and the combination therapy, plus or minus the colistin inhalation. For bacteremia, also the colistin based and the plus the carbapenem, including the imipenem or menopenem. And also we had some alternative treatment options. So we did the meta-analysis based on the treatment of the carbapenem-resistant Acinetobacter baumannii pneumonia. We compare the monotherapy versus the combination therapy. So the data show us there is no difference between the combination therapy or monotherapy, including the colistin base of the tigecycline base. And the carbapenem-resistant Acinetobacter pneumonia, if we look at the mortality based on the meta-analysis, and also we cannot find any difference between the monotherapy and the combination therapy. So this is quite different from the carbapenem-resistant enterobacteriaceae. And back to the drug resistance issue, because in the current 2 years, in 2020 and this year, we are facing a big problem of COVID-19. So during the COVID-19 epidemic, we have quite very successful and very good infection control measures implanted in the hospitals. But this data show us even though we have a very good infection control during the COVID-19 epidemic, in China, they had the multi-center retrospective study. They included the 190 patients. Among the 190 patients, 165 patients had a positive blood culture after ICU admission for more than 3 days. So they identified the Klebsiella pneumoniae, Acinetobacter baumannii, and the Pseudomonas were the most important pathogens. But unfortunately, carbapenem-resistant and the multiple drug resistant rate is more than 90% in Acinetobacter baumannii and also in the Pseudomonas aeruginosa. So we have very good infection control, I think. But we are facing more the carbapenem-resistant and MDR. So they concluded in this the retrospective cohort of severe and critical COVID-19 patients admitted to ICU in China. The prevalence of the secondary infection was high, particularly the carbapenem resistant and the MDR bacteria, and this phenomena caused the poor clinical outcome. So this is data from China. But in Taiwan, actually, we have the comparison, the antimicrobial resistance in 2019 and 2020. All this isolated was come from the patient with bacteremia, bloodstream infection. So we look at the rate of the resistance. For example, here, the carbapenem resistant Klebsiella pneumonia, we had 7.5% in isolate causing the bloodstream infection. This is the multi-center study. But in 2020, the increase to 10. And independent resistant Pseudomonas aeruginosa in 2019 is 14%, but in 2020 it's 33%. Independent resistant single-bladed Borrelia complex, 42 in 2019 and 54 in 2020. So in the COVID epidemic, we surfaced a lot of the increase in the multiple drug resistant organisms. But this phenomenon is not the common phenomena to other countries or other continents. So every country and every hospital should look at the issue of the antimicrobial resistance before and after the COVID-19 epidemic. So I would like to conclude my talk is the resistance of the pseudo acinetobacter and the enterobacteria in Asian Pacific is quite serious. And the appropriate antimicrobial therapy using the old and the new drug, using the monotherapy and the combination therapy, it should be a very big issue in our region. Thank you very much for your kind attention.